everybody. My name is William Singleton. I'm giving a speech for Comm 204, Section 34. This is the informative speech. As you all know, we're in the Library Tech Commons right now. So my speech is on CPR and the Heimlich maneuver. Obviously, the application to this in your regular life is pretty evident. You can save someone's life with it. And in case you're not aware of the statistics, according to the American Heart Association, about 45% of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest victims live when CPR is administered to them. So there's a great chance that you could help somebody's life if you were to administer CPR to them. I will actually cover CPR and the Heimlich maneuver here, but we're going to go over CPR first. So when do you know if you need to do CPR? So before you can begin doing CPR, you have to assess the situation to figure out if CPR is actually necessary. Because the last thing you want is to perform CPR on someone who doesn't need it and break their ribs and get a lawsuit. So even though you can be protected from that in certain states. So the best way to assess the situation, what you want to do first is figure out where the person's at. So for instance, if someone's not breathing and you're in a pool, chances are that they're not in any immediate danger as long as you have removed them from the pool. But if someone works in, for instance, a factory and they're unconscious, then it's very possible that they could be suffering from some sort of gas leakage, similar to what happened at the Health and Human Sciences building not long ago. So once you've assessed the situation and determined the person is no longer in immediate danger, if they are, you should move them. The best thing to do is to ask them how they're feeling, even though that sounds kind of redundant. But if someone can talk, they almost never need CPR. We will talk about a fringe case in just a moment later on in the slide. So you should ask them if they're okay. If they're not okay, you should immediately call 911. It's best if you have someone else to call 911 rather than doing it yourself, because CPR can fail if you waste even a couple of minutes. Before getting into CPR, I will mention the reason why that is. CPR, when you do the chest compressions, you are actually acting in loco, or you're acting in place of the heart, which means that you're sort of like you're pumping the blood throughout the person's body, which means that if you don't perform CPR within 4 minutes of their heart stopping, then oxygen will cease to go to their brain, which will render them brain dead in minutes. Which is why it's imperative you act urgently and quickly. But as far as actually beginning CPR, the first thing you should do is check the person's mouth, their throat, for anything that could be blocking their breathing. CPR is not going to be successful if someone has something stuck in their throat that prevents them from breathing, because the goal is to get them to begin breathing again. So what you want to do is lay them on their back if they aren't already, and then from there, you're going to want to sort of open up their mouth and just make sure there's nothing blocking their airway. If there's not, you can keep going. But if there is, you should put them on their side and attempt to get the object out with your fingers. I know that sounds gross, but that's the best thing to do. So this is a great diagram for figuring out if someone needs CPR right here. What you can see is this guy has his ear next to the person's mouth to listen for breathing, and he's looking at their chest to see if their chest is rising up and down. So proper form is imperative, of course. Either of these forms is acceptable. You can either do this with both your hands interlaced over top of each other, or you can put your fingers together like this, like in the diagram. But the goal is to be moving with the weight of your entire body, which is why it's important you keep all the energy focused in one area. You don't want to be doing this. Secondly, where you're placing your hands. You're going to want to place your hands right here, right over the person's heart, on their left side of their chest, just barely over to the left. So you'll see, according to the diagram, that's right near the sternum, towards the bottom of the sternum. This diagram says that chest compressions will be performed between the nipples, so you're going for an area right in here, like that. And then what you want to do is, obviously, the classic CPR maneuver. You're going to do 100 chest compressions per minute. For the purposes of this, mouth-to-mouth doesn't exist. Most of the time when you consult mouth-to-mouth sources, they say it's not necessary, especially with the outbreak of a new potential pandemic disease. Probably best to keep your mouth off of strangers' mouths. So in most cases, mouth-to-mouth does not actually help the person that you're attempting to save the life of. So your best bet is just doing 100 chest compressions. And if you don't know what that is, here's a couple of songs that will help you out. You can do chest compressions to Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Yeah, you know, just one for every single one of those. Don't pull a Michael Scott and start singing the chorus. Or sorry, the verse. You want to sing the, or no, sorry, I've got it mixed up. You want to sing the verse, not the chorus. And another one that actually works, I was proud of this, is Dancing Queen. I would always go for Dancing Queen. I love both songs, but Dancing Queen's, I think, better. Anyway, you're gonna stop doing CPR as soon as the person starts breathing. Every 2 minutes, you wanna switch with someone else if possible. Even if you don't feel tired, even if they don't feel tired, you need to switch every 2 minutes and keep going until an ambulance has arrived or until the person begins consciousness again, begins breathing on their own again. So CPR is actually different in 2 cases. CPR on children ages 1 through 8 is different, and CPR on children 0 through 1 is different. For CPR on children 0 through 1, just like this diagram, instead of using 2 hands, you're just going to use 2 fingers. Someone I know who's majoring in preschool education is also certified in CPR for children, and according to her, it's also acceptable to use your thumbs. That's the way she was taught to do CPR on infants. And it's the same way, same deal. You want to do 100 chest compressions. You definitely don't want to use as much force either. Also important to know with infants, you don't want to tilt their heads back, because if any of you knew from taking care of those little dolls in high school or in middle school, like if you tilt their heads back, it's really dangerous, not good for them. And for children ages 1 through 8, you want to use 1 hand instead of 2 hands, because that much force can hurt them all. One more note before I move on to the Heimlich maneuver. It's okay if you break their ribs. That means you're doing it right. But if you do break the ribs, you should probably move your hands. But it's okay. It's acceptable to break ribs while doing it. It's better than them dying to have a couple of broken ribs. Anyway, next, the Heimlich maneuver. So this is for dislodging foreign objects that are stuck in the throat. This is considerably easier than CPR. First, for the Heimlich maneuver, you're going to take the individual, if they're standing, if they're not standing, stand them up. If they are standing, what you want to do is, despite how weird it looks, you're going to stand behind them, like in this instance. Before you start doing this, you're first going to hit them right on the back of the spine right here, because you're trying to dislodge what's in their throat. Yeah, exactly. So like a bat motion. You're just trying to get it out of their system. Then you place yourself behind them, and with one hand, with your thumb, like your thumb knuckle placing up, you place it right here near their ribs, and you're going to push up like that with moderate force. And then you're going to do that 5 times. So you're going to switch between doing this 5 times and doing the motion where you hit them on the back 5 times. Again, this is also different if you're working on children. For small kids, what you want to do instead is use 1 hand. And for babies, the motion is completely different. You want to use just a few fingers again, so you're not, killing them. If you are ever by yourself and you have something stuck in your throat, you can actually perform the Heimlich on yourself. And the easiest way to do this is by leaning on a table or chair, like this guy's doing in this picture. But if there's not one around you, if you're eating outside of the or if you're eating in the absence of like a chair or a table for some reason, you can do the same motion to yourself. It is less effective though. In conclusion, I hope you all will be able to put this to use at some point. Odds are you could save a life if you remember the information here. According to the American Heart Association, anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 Americans could be saved each year if they had CPR performed accurately and early on them. So again, urgency is key, and don't be afraid to break a few ribs. Thank you.